to improve the engagement from 2015 survey to what we need, what we are aspiring in the future, from 33% to our target in the next few years, 70 in the next 5 years.
Answer the question about the qualification and the skill set, because that question that my colleague asked, which I'm enjoining her on. What is her qualification vis-a-vis the outgoing person that she replaces?
Member, the skill sets, as you know, for HR it starts by recruitment. The skill set is there to demonstrate that the current person has a skill set from recruitment all the way to retention. So
You're
as you know,
repeating yourself,
HR...
Mr. Greenley. I ask you what the qualification of the person is. What degree certificate that the person holds coming to the position? What is her experience before, where she served, how many years of service, number of employees in the former employment that allows you to establish that she has the skill sets?
I can get the full list, but the HR manager currently possesses the Bachelor in Human Resources. She also have a MBA certificate along with many other certifications. I can get the full list and provide to you.
And those were prior to the position or subsequent to?
I'll have to check the exact details to show you the full and the timeline.
Yes, so the qualification, were they attained subsequent to assuming the position, or were they before? All right, and I want to get an assessment, because you speak very much about the skill sets and competence. I want to juxtapose where you have come to where you're coming from, to see if you have moved upwards.
Could you remind me? Sorry,
how long is the HR manager there?
Sorry, member Holness,
Just a little bit over 1 year.
tell me, and how much did you say that is the total emoluments of the HR manager?
Approximately 12 million.
What is the range from the Ministry of Finance for that job category? What is the category the individual is at, and what is the salary range? First question. And the reason why I asked, I really love to do the comparison. I'm happy you have indicated that the individual takes over the role of both the IR consultant and the HR officer or HR manager, but it would be good to be able to confirm that the qualifications, not just the skill set of said individual, allows for the smooth performance in industrial relations, considering your turnover experience now. And I'm actually happy you indicated earlier that you do have exit interviews. I would want to caution that in addition to salary related issues that we can't help with, it would be good to still make the effort to get people to a place that they are willing, like we are as members of parliament, to work at lower salaries, because like MPs, teachers, police officers, we're at a place where we understand that we have a duty to country as well, so that we're not sitting here another time and we hear 20 people have gone from PetroJam just on the basis of money alone. So I'm hoping your IR/HR manager is getting staff in the training to a place where there's some element of social responsibility that goes with what I thought were very good salaries at PetroJam.
Okay, member.
While you're answering,
Okay, member. Member. I think the question you asked was what's the range for the category? It's a M1 category for managers, as approved by Ministry of Finance. The range is 9.5 to 12.97 approximately, so 9.5 to 13 million. That's the range, as approved by Ministry of Finance.
Following on that question, when she came in at first, what point of the scale she was? Came in at the M1 scale. What point in the scale she came in?
What is your question?
That's my question. When she came in, when she started, where on the scale she started?
It was per the M1 category.
No, M1 give you a range from 9.5 to 13. When she entered the service, where on the scale did she start?
Did she start at the 13? Or the
No,
12?
that's my question.
Remember, her salary was negotiated, I guess, based on her skill set. I'll have to get back to you on that exact.
No, my question, Mr. Grilly, is simply this. She came there a year ago. When she came at first, what point on that M1 scale she came in at, as against where she is now, which you have told us? So my specific question, where on the scale she started?
Remember, I have to get back to you on that one.
So you don't know that one?
It's approximately, again,
And a senior
remember,
manager-
it has been over more than a year since the person started.
Yeah, but you are the
approximately 12
manager,
million.
and a senior manager like you, she started at 12 million, is that it?
He said approximately 12 million.
No, and you answer the question, not she.
But you weren't listening.
Well, you no, my question to you, where on the scale did she
No,
That's what member says. Let me get back to you with specific information.
Yes.
Let me get back to you on that one.
All right.
My last point, Mr.
Member, no, please. Member, hold this. You're on the floor. Please, go ahead. No, go ahead. No, Member Jackson, please. I have member hold this on.
Yes, but I've been waiting now for 2 hours to be able to ask my questions. Mr. Greenlee, as it relates to Member Paul Wells' original question, and actually the reason I was here today, which was a performance review of Petrojam, and we seem to have always just gone off course in terms of where we are heading. It is critical for us to have an appreciation as a government, as the people of Jamaica, where we are in terms of one performance to current, which you have given. We are $5 million US over budget. But with the impending and potential changes, at what stage would your VDU introductions be able to put us on a firm path to profitability? Is there any significant potential that we are going to capsize? Because 50% approximately of our revenue is now in limbo between a year to a year and a half based on your projections. And in terms of potential performance and your planned strategies, and Mr. Watson can help in respect of this response, or the senior advisor, where are we going in the next year to 2.5 years approximately until VDU is fully up and running, in being able to re-secure potential profits for Petrojam until we have this wonderful capital expenditure in place?
So member, I would like to go first. And let me start out by saying that if any one person, or at least one person that wants Petrojam to remain as a refinery, it's going to be the leader, and it's me. Under my leadership, I will not and won't support the refinery going into a terminal mode. And that's one reason why I decided to return back from the USA to give back to the country. And that's one of the things that I said to the management team and the staff, that I'll be fighting for the VDU project and for the refinery upgrade, because I understand, with my prior experience being in the US for 14 years, understand how important Jamaica is. And if good, I said to my people, if good is in America, good can be in Jamaica. With respect to the VDU project, it was under my leadership when I got there, I appointed a dedicated project manager to ensure that we drive the project. because of the importance, because doing nothing is not an option. Doing nothing will result in the refinery because of the, as Member Powell mentioned, as you mentioned, doing nothing will force the refinery to shut down. And that is not an option under my leadership, and I think it's shared by everybody here. So with respect to the video project, we have the project currently in negotiation with the firm that was appointed by the cabinet to allow the task force to negotiate. So we're in the process of that, and we'll continue to expedite a decision to ensure that we can move on to the next phase.
Mr. Greenlee, is VDU a savior? 100% of your level of revenue generation would be returned? Or do you actually need to be looking for Petrojam to divert into other revenue earning streams? Where are you looking? Where will you take us? Do you have any ideas? Are you grappling with what we will do going forward so that Petrojam continues to remain the success that it is today?
So remember, we have looked at all the alternatives in terms of what is a preferred approach that we need to take with the imminent marketing conditions. As was mentioned, we have the JPS transition into natural gas. Those projects are in progress. And then we have the IMO that takes effect January 1, 2020. So when we have looked at all alternatives, the fact that we cannot fully fund an upgrade project as it is today, we have decided to approach the RUP in a phased approach where we can fund that project that will allow Petrojam to continue to operate. And the video project, after all alternatives and the economics assessments that were done and the marketing survey that was done, that the video project is the way to go. The video project is also a part of the major overall RUP. So it's not like we are embarking and doing something contrary to the RUP. That is a part of it. It's a part of it. However, as you know, with everything we're funds constrained. However, the solution for the video project, we are confident that it will allow us to allow the refinery to generate and continue to contribute to GDP while we work on getting the RUP refinery upgrade project up and running in another 5 years.
Mr. Greenlee, I have one recommendation and suggestion to Petrojam and PCJ by extension as the parent company. It is imperative that we are able to rely on the level of revenues we used to generate. And the wealth of knowledge and intellect does not necessarily reside in one individual. So I would charge you to start looking around for other companies across the world like Petrojam who are in the same business, who would be faced with the same challenges because the world is moving ahead, to see how do we, yes, VDU will deal with part of it, yes, upgrading the refinery, but how do we explore, whether it be that we need to get international funding to be able to get to that 1 billion that we need to spend, and how do you provide the necessary justification to the government, arguing that if it is, as a government, we invest to the extent of $1 billion, that Petrojam and PCJ by extension can guarantee either the same or greater returns from such an investment. Because in listening, I still feel like we are some way to solving a part of the problem or have the idea, and we're still in a little quandary because there is a time lag between when we expect the problems versus when we expect the solutions. However, the major problem for me is it seems that there is still a gap that we are not yet exploring how we're going to fill that gap. So between cabinet and the public, and more so you, because you have all the technical expertise, knowledge, and access to individuals across the world with that level of technical expertise, we charge you to come back to us with the solution for Jamaica.
All right. Thank you, member. Member Phillips?
Thank you, Chairman.
No, Member Jackson, please. No. After member Phillips, I will have you re-engage. But you had an extensive time at the crease, and I think Member Phillips. And so would Member Phillips.
All of us. All of us. Chairman, just before I go to my substantive questions, on the HR manager, was that position advertised? And when was it advertised?
It was advertised.
It was?
Yes.
Okay, when was it advertised?
It would have been prior to her coming on board. It was also approved by Ministry of Finance.
Okay, all right. Chairman, I just want to, in Mr. Greenley's answers to a couple of previous questions, I wasn't too clear on his answers, but I want to go back to the consultant. When was this consultant, the one in question that we have been talking about, when was he engaged and how many contracts has he entered upon or into with PCJ since you have?
Remember, or
Petrojam, sorry.
Petrojam, yes.
Yeah.
So there were 3 contracts. I said, and the contracts were for services to complement the company for the needs to support the company needs, as I mentioned earlier.
And elaborate on company needs.
For the VDU project, I started out for the VDU project, we needed to do the economic analysis, that we didn't have the resource and the skill set inside to do the economic analysis. There was also support of the Muse evaluation that was done for the refinery and also required for the VDU project as well.
Is it that the Muse evaluation was not adequate enough? Why he had to? He was contracted to.
One of the scope to bring in to do all those necessary support that we didn't have the resources internally to undertake those deliverables.
Because by my information, this contractor, as you said, 3 contracts totaling about $21 million Jamaican, is being engaged from May of last year to April of this year. Is there any additional contracts that you have entered upon with him? And does this contractor advise you also?
He was brought on board again to support the company, not the general manager, but to support the needs of the company.
So outside of these 3 contracts, he's retained to support the company?
He's not retained. It's to provide the services as required per those 3 separate contracts.
And was these contracts, because I mean, the first one was 47,000 US, second one 55,000, second 59,000 US. Were these put to tender?
The first, again, with Petrojam, the information, some of the information that would have been provided, they are confidential information. The first procurement was a direct contracting. The next 2 were a follow-on.
No, but how you arrived at a direct contract with this particular company and not? Is it the only company that you engaged, or you wrote to other companies to provide this service? Or is it that you had more confidence that he will keep your information close to his heart than others?
So member,
I'm trying to gather how it is that you came up to engage this company and this company alone.
Remember, as with other procurement, my team would have done their research and determined where the resources are to fill the gap.
The government and our Ministry of Finance here, there is a government procedure contained in this document
Even
for
to
the,
do with
for the
direct-
procurement. For emergency services, you can do sole sourcing for emergency services. To do a panel, you have a select set of persons with the requisite skill sets that qualify to go on that list from which someone is chosen or you go to tender. The member is asking the question in keeping with what the government procedures are. And I have no doubt that even though you were new there at the time, you have a seasoned staff who would be quite familiar with what the government policies are for you to adhere to. Members' question, did you adhere to those? Which of them did you apply?
So member, if you go back to the policy you're referring to, it allows, I think, 5 different criteria that you could use to direct contracting. There are 5, not only 1.
And you want to tell me what those are?
In answering the question, I still want to understand if you have specialist skills required, because Petrojam is such a different entity in terms of the technical requirements. Well, so I am actually trying to figure out when you do sole source or direct, is it that you have persons with specialist skills coming to the team?
Or is it, let me ask you, because
how the process is. I'm just wondering.
Fitz, please. All right. Chairman, in this instance with this, because each of, as Mr. Grinley said, that they are all follow-on, I would like to be satisfied of the skill set of this company, why it is that you went direct contract with this company, even if going direct contract not allowed other companies to at least, or write to other companies. Is it that you approached this company, or did this company approach you for this contract? Well, if you can answer that one, it would be good.
So again, member, what I do know, as I mentioned, that the first contract was direct contracting.
And did you approach this company, or did they approach you?
The company had a need, and Petrojam had a need for resource. Petrojam had a need for resource to support services that the company needed to support our business. And we went out.
Mr. Grinley.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Grinley, and I think we have been here long enough, and I forgot to Northwest Manchester this afternoon. Let's answer a question. You approached this company, or did the company approach you?
Which company is this?
This is a consultant.
What's the name of the company by the name?
Yes. What's the name?
Asha Corporation.
Asha
How
Corporation.
you spell that?
ASHA.
Okay.
That's actually my middle name. Yeah? Yes. It's not my company. I wish with income like this I'd be happy. Yeah? With revenue like this I'd be happy. But answer that question.
Remember, I'll have to go.
No, but again, you know, each time you say that.
No, but I'll have to go back to see the genesis behind the selection.
You know, each time you answer that, I wonder who running the company, if it's you or somebody else. Because if you don't know what is happening in the company that you are managing, then God Almighty, who is? No, seriously. Eh? I asked, all right, Chairman, since he cannot answer the question.
No, could you repeat?
The question I am asking, who approached whom in this instance? Did Petrojam approach Asha Corporation, or did Asha Corporation approach Petrojam for consulting services?
Do you know the board of directors for Asher? You know who formed the company? It's a company that you know?
I know the consultant, one of the consultants that
But
works
do you
for
know
Asher.
the company though? Obviously, if you're hiring, you'd know the company.
Yes, Chairman. Chairman, my
No, but
my recollection is that the company approached Asher because of their skill set and expertise and the.
But were you general manager at the time?
Yes, Chairman.
But then you would know.
Has this
Chairman,
company,
I'm
You said
Chairman,
that I think the way in which you phrased it, it would be as if the company did it. I'm saying you would know whether you approached them or not.
and Chairman, is it the first time,
I said the company
members, is this the first time that Asher Corporation would have done work for Petrojam? For Petrojam?
I'm aware of the time that since I took office, they were engaged. I'm not sure prior.
Anybody can tell? Huh?
I am not sure if they were engaged prior to my tenure.
Do you know any of the other persons involved with Asher Corporation?
No.
Or you only know the consultant?
That came to the company, yes.
So you didn't do a due diligence other than that?
Pardon me?
You didn't do a due diligence other than that?
So,
I'm
no, but
sure
Chair,
due diligence was done, Chairman.
Chair, let me, because I'm a little bit confused. Because the invoices that I've had the privilege of seeing copies of, where is building Asher Corporation, but payment is made to a one Rodney Davis. So how that work out? He's a consultant?
He was a consultant that represented Asher that came to
And the
Petrojam.
checks are done directly to the consultant and not to the company that you're employed?
Were they done to Rodney or to an account?
No, but I would think that you would have authorized that. I mean, I don't think the accounts department would authorize that themselves.
Member, I'm sure whatever is done, it's in line with the accounting rules.
No, but Chairman, just like with the trips itself, I am very concerned because I don't think Mr. Grinley is telling us the truth about the trips itself. And, you know, I would love for Mr. Grinley, since he was the one who engaged Asher Corporation, to give us a report on the competence of Asher Corporation. And I'm sure he can go and do further research to see if Asher Corporation has been engaged before, since it is a specialized task that they're asked to do, to execute, and also to give the reasons why. If a company, and I know it is not unusual, but engaging the company and engaging company, Asher Corporation, paying over $21 million within a year, and the checks themselves being instructed to be made out to the consultant himself. Is this consultant the owner of the company, a director? Who is he? What interest does he have in the company? Hence, why the checks are done in the individual's name.
So, member, I am aware of situations where, due to the EO 1308, because of payments being held up due to the executive order, where suppliers have asked that payments be diverted to other places because of the inability to collect their money. We have. It's not only a Venezuelan firm that is affected by the EU. Our suppliers, even our customers, who have had to pay us money for products. Those payments were also being held up due to the executive order.
Mr. Renee, Asher, the consultants company, is the work being done by?
There are too many mics on.
Is the work being done by Asher connected to the same VDU? That I'm trying to just understand, and it would help us in terms of if they have done prior work, if it is a new project, program that they're engaged with and have the specialist skills for that? Or are they doing something that we used to do at PetroJam before?
Okay, member. Asha Corporation was engaged to initially provide the economic analysis that was needed to support the video. We could not and we did not have the resources inside. So we had to get it from outside. As I mentioned to you earlier, when in terms of the compensation, other firms of similar nature charge up to $400 an hour that we have paid in the past.
Let me ask, Mr. Greenlee.
No.
It doesn't exist in your parent company, Mr. Watson. Those kind of market sustainability work, analysis. It doesn't reside in the parent company.
Yes, we have our chief accountant, and we do have a consultant that can provide that kind of service. So, yeah, sometimes.
So in other words, that service was very much available within the family of PCJ. The consultant. You have a consultant you engage for those market studies.
Plus, I've also said that the Venezuelans do have the expertise.
Yeah. Which is the basis of your partnership. You have a shareholder that does that. But come back though, Mr. Watson. Your PCJ has the competence to do that service that Asha was engaged to do. Is that correct?
I would say yes. We can do it, yes.
You can do it. Mr. Greenlee, you are a subsidiary of PCJ. You have a major work to be done in over 50, almost $100,000 altogether in work to be done. And you don't consult internally for those availability. Internally, you indicate that your staff advise that you need this expertise to do the service, hence you go out and soul search. Soul, S-O-L-E, not S-O-U-L. For this entity to do a service that is already available to you by your parent company. You call that effective management? The question Mr. Phillips asked, how did you go about selecting that entity? What is the criteria used? When you're going to make major major expenses like this? Mr. Greenlee, the reason why I'm so concerned about this, the profit from PetroJam can help to build schools, repair roads as a government company. And when the money is misspent, the people of Jamaica suffer. That's a consequence of these kind of decisions that you make.
Chair, since we're not getting much more answers, can we get a copy of the due diligence that would have selected this consultant? I just want to go back to the trips, because Mr. Greenlee himself said that was a one-off incident. But I know for a fact that there are other incidents of the chairman himself being reimbursed for another trip. Now, what mechanism is going to be put in place to ensure, and well, also I want to know if the check that was reimbursed from the chairman had full payments for the amount that you issued the check to him for.
So remember, one correction to your comment there. I don't recall saying that it was a one-off.
No,
what I said, I don't think it came from me. What I said is that I will look into the facts in terms of the reimbursement and that particular trip and get back to you.
All right, and you're going to look on the one that he came to Jamaica for the opening of the Edward Seaga building also, that he was also reimbursed. And we would like to know if there are any other such trips that has been paid for by him and being reimbursed also. So if we can get a report on that.
Yes, member.
All right.
No, please, I have member. Oh,
I'm
sorry.
not done. I'm done. Yeah. And also, Chair, in that report, his regular visits
I'm trying to make a list as you go along. At the end, I will go through
and
it,
then you go through,
and then
we
can
add
or
what you want.
subtract
No
as
problem.
we so desire.
I just want to on the VDU project. Was this put out to tender, or was it for this VDU the distillation unit or so? Yeah. Was it put out to tender? What is the cost of this unit? I remember Paul asked, I wouldn't get a cost for the unit.
No, what you mean put out? You mean the EPC contract or the consultant?
A contract to build out this vacuum.
It started out, the project started out as 2 unsolicited proposals that we had received from two Chinese firms. And we went through the due diligence process, both locally and with our Venezuelan counterparts. And at the end of the exercise, primarily through the technical understanding of the Venezuelans who were working with one of the companies, they selected one of them. And then that was taken to Cabinet, and Cabinet gave us approval to use this, to negotiate actually with this particular company.
All right, so is that, and so we have no idea of the cost of this project? Because there's an amount inside.
No, we have done internal engineering estimate.
Well,
so we have that number. Then that was 102 million, I think. And then we had an external company give us a similar cost estimate. And then we asked the EPC contractor that we're negotiating with to also, looking at the same document, give us an estimate how much they think they could do the job for. So what we're doing now is comparing all these different costs to see which one makes sense.
Estimates.
Sure.
You engage the company that Cabinet gave approval to. Is that the company to oversee the VDU project? Because I'm hearing about an EPC contractor. EPC contractor, as the term implied, they do the engineering, the design, and the construction. But then you have the equipment side that has to be provided too. So you have your EPC contract sum plus your equipment cost to get what the overall cost would be. Where I'm a little bit lost is that when you mention up those numbers that were given, with your internal costing, was it inclusive of EPC contract costs plus equipment, or was it singularly? Clarify that for me.
Right. So when the contractor is doing his cost estimate, he will come up with he has a design, a basic design.
Yes.
He will go to the market and he will get cost estimate for the different pieces of equipment we're going to need. He will get estimate for labor. Typically they will use like a US estimate, and then they Jamaicanize it. So they'll bring that cost and say, if you're in Jamaica, this is the cost. So they'll put in all the elements that would make up to do the work: equipment, labor, materials, everything.
So that when I hear the term EPC contractor,
right,
and a sum associated with EPC contractor, it is also inclusive of the equipment costs. Okay.
No, Member Phillips is going to finish, and then Member Paulwell, and I think that we would have had a
Chair.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Member Phillips, and I have Member Jackson. And Member no, please.
Chair. Chair, while members,
Before what?
I was very quiet while you were asking your questions. Chair, I just want to go back a little bit because while Member Jackson and Holness was asking their questions, I was Googling. Just to go back to the consultant, where is that company registered? Asha Corporation. Is it a Jamaican registered company or is it an overseas? Microphone, please. Somebody's mic. Chairman, you want to turn off yours?
Yeah, but how many mics are on? Anybody other than you?
I'm good now, member. So member, it's an overseas company.
Because I just Googled Asha Corporation. It says that it's registered in the United States, but it says Asha Corporation does not have any key executives recorded. So, if we could get a little more background.
I don't think we should go too far.
But if we could get a little.
We will be. I think we have got to get some better particulars. When we are finished, I'm going to try and wrap up the sentiments I've heard expressed.
Right. Chair, I want to just go to the F2, the furnace replacement of power former furnace. I see an amount inside your summary of capital program for this fiscal year. Can you give me the cost of that project, overall cost? Because I see 1.1 million US here. Is it? Can you give me the overall cost of that project and give me a little background of that project?
The 1.1 that is referenced in the, I presume you're looking at the corporate plan.
Mm-hmm. The report that you gave us, yes.
was budgeted for the installation phase of that project.
And what is the total cost of the project?
2.3, remember, million US.
Yeah, yes. All right. That project itself, you actually took a company or chose a company, two companies bidded for that project, and you took the one that came in at the higher price, yeah? At $1.91 million, while the other company came in at 863. In your documents here, you said that you chose the one which is higher, which came in even 80% higher than what your internal assessment was. And that company was supposed to be delivering. One of the reasons why is because of the time frame that company would have delivered the contract, on the contract. That was supposed to be done in 68 days, but yet still, and that is from, what, last year, also? Yeah?
Yes, member. But I do have one corrections to make that to reference. You mentioned 2 quotes. There were actually 3 quotes. One for...
You only accepted 2 tenders because one was, as in your report, one was incomplete and you couldn't have accepted it. So you only accepted 2. So you don't have to get too technical.
But remember, I think I do have to get technical because I think there was one bid that was accepted. Because, and the prices were, I think, as you said, 900,000 approximately.
3 persons submitted bids.
One for...
Hold on. 3 persons submitted bids. In your own report here, you said that one was not accepted because it was incomplete for whatever reason. Yeah? You opened 2 tenders. Am I right or wrong?
All right, that's why I wanted to go back to the full history, member. There were 3 bids that were received. If I recall, one was 1.8, 1.9, and the other one that you mentioned for, and those 2 bids were not acceptable by my technical team.
If you look at your report here, or if you go through, you will see where you looked at both of them, right? And your team, the bid team, or whatever the technical term you use for that team to do the assessment, went through both for Born Inc. and Complete Heat Solutions, and you graded them, and you went in, as you said, you went with Complete Heat Solution because of the delivery time that they offered to you, which was 68 days, compared to Born Inc. on 190 days. Am I right or wrong?
If you're reading from the report,
am I right or wrong?
If you're reading from the report.
So I'm right, okay. Now that the 68 days have passed, okay, you're gone about what, about 300 days? And the contract has not yet been completed. Am I right or wrong?
The installation have not been completed.
Yeah, so them not forfeit.
The installation.
They would have forfeited, just like how the Ministry of National Security would have said that the company has forfeited for not supplying vehicles within the old vehicles within the time specified by the contract. Huh? But yet still the contract sum was for 1.9, and you are now telling me that it is 2.3.
Remember, there are 2 different contracts. One is for the equipment supply that was completed, and there's the other contract which is not yet issued yet would be for the installation. 2 different contracts.
And I'm speaking about the one for the supply, the $1.9 million that was awarded.
It has been delivered, right? The materials for that, equipment for that contract were delivered, member.
And when that contract was entered into, did the committee get the technical report from your technical team on that furnace, if it should have been replaced, or their recommendation was that the furnace should not have been replaced at the time?
The information I was provided, that furnace needs to be replaced, and also along with other furnaces, member.
All right, Chairman, I want to ask you if we could get a copy of that technical report then.
That is the technical report for?
Yeah, no.
No.
This is on the power former furnace, the F2 furnace.
Repeat that. Go on again.
The F2 furnace.
F2 furnace. What you'd like to get?
The technical report that should have gone with the recommendation on why it is that they would have gone to tender to replace the information I have, Chairman, is that they approved the tender in May of that year, 2017. But the technical report did not come until about June, July. But it went out to tender. And the report is that, the information I have is that the report from the technical team was not recommending changing of that F2 furnace at that point in time. So since we're having a difference in information, then I will ask you to get that report.
All right. Member Campbell.
All right. For clarity, Mr. Watson, perhaps you can help me with this. Who is the holder of the shares, the 51% shares in Petrojam?
PCJ.
And why is this so? Isn't there a requirement that all shares being held by public, government-owned companies should be held by the Accountant General?
That's if it hasn't been done yet, it's being done. The change.
And this has been. When was the partnership between yourself and
Venezuela
and PD Caribbean?
2005-6, just around then.
So we're talking about a 12-year period in which you have failed to put in place that to make the transfer from PCJ to the Accountant General.
No, whenever we got the requirement, there was a letter issued, I think, by was it the accountant? Ministry of Finance. We started the process of transfer. That's why I'm thinking it was done around then. And if it hasn't been done, I know up to recently, I reminded the corporate sector to make sure it's done.
So in your discussions with the the accountant general, or where does the accountant general, because you are strictly accountable
We're a statutory body.
to the accountant general for all that you
You
do
mean for the
in
shares?
its name,
Right.
because you're a trustee now for those shares on
Correct.
behalf of
Correct.
the accountant general. All right, I want to take you someplace else. What is the default position that you have for Petrojam? Because you gave us a rather picture which I'm uncomfortable with. In the, or let me go to this question before I complete that one, which is the position if PDB Caribe should decide that they are not going to go ahead with the VDU project, what do you have as your default position?
Well, I think that's pretty much far down the road. The government, you'll recall, have already said to PDVSA that for the last 13 years, nothing has happened with the partnership. Remember, the intention of the partnership primarily was to do the refinery upgrade. That has not happened. So the government has gone back to Venezuela and pretty much said to them, since you haven't done anything, we want to repurchase the shares. So that is now in train. An offer was made to the Venezuelans, and we're waiting on them to respond to that offer. So the government is taking back the shares.
Well, and
right.
In that agreement, the agreement between yourselves and PDB Caribe, was there a provision for the government of Jamaica to repurchase those shares if we didn't go through?
No.
There was not such a
No.
position. So this could really land us in a diplomatic.
Well, there have been discussions by both ourselves in the sense of the ministry or the government, Ministry of Finance, the Attorney General, and the Venezuelans. So far, we haven't seen anything to say that there will be a diplomatic issue. But as I said, there are ongoing discussions, and there is an offer. The Venezuelans were here 2 weeks ago. They came up for clarification on some of the points in our offer, and they said they would go back, and within a short time, like a week,
Okay.
they would get back to us.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Please, please, continue. Just continue what you were saying. You had finished?
Huh? I was just clarifying the point.
Yes,
That
please.
so they have said that within a week or two, they would get back to us with their position. So we are awaiting their response before we can take it any further.
No. Hold on. Member Campbell, you are finished. All right. I had member. No, members. I think where I'm trying to.
Yes, and I'm going to be
succinct.
Yes,
please.
and because I suspect that the team will have to return because there are some crucial questions. There was, yes, and I do too, the issue of a wall that was constructed recently has come up. I have seen an estimate from the Works Agency for that wall to be done at a price of 30 million Jamaican dollars. It is my understanding that that wall has been done, but the price far exceeds $30 million. Can you briefly say to us what is the end price, final price,
Final
and the reason for that?
So, member, you reference an estimate for 30 million. There's no estimate for 30 million that was used as part of the estimate to award the contract. I can provide the full details. I recall an internal estimate for, if I recall, 78. There was a rescope, member, approximate 78 million. So there was a rescope and re-estimate done before the award that was done.
So just to be clear, you just said that there was no estimate for 30?
I'm not aware of any.
Member, just for clarification in terms of chronology of events, the original estimate submitted by the Works Agency, I believe it was associated with the Chinese company Czech, that would have been around the region of 30 million. That's relative to our estimate at the time for about 45 million at the time. There were discussions, as I understand, around the variance, and the NWA stood by their costs of about, it was, I think, slightly less than 30 million. Subsequent to that, there were actually changes to the scope of work to ensure additional wall run to the end of the property. Other works considering an automated gate system, fencing, and the requisite reinforcement. By virtue of those scope changes, Petrojam's estimate would have been elevated from 45 to around 70. Just want to get the exact figure for you. 76 million, 76.3 million. So that was the final estimate from Petrojam relative to that submitted by the company for 96.8 million. Now, assessing even Petrojam estimates, there were some aspects in it that we figured that there were actually reworks intended. So around those reworks in terms of percentages around, let's say, insurance, etc., that would have brought the estimate at least up to about 84 million, thereabout, from the 76. So in actuality, the difference would have been 84 to 96 based on the information presented on the chronological order.
What was the final price for it?
So the actual final price for the contract was 96.8 million. And 84 would have been the round-up estimate considering all the factors, up from 78 million.
All right, members. I think that we have had quite a day. Members, I think I'm going to speak, for the committee, and certainly as chairman, I just want to give you my sentiments coming out of this. Number one, I'm not particularly satisfied with how the proceedings have gone in the deliberations with Petrojam today. I have found, just looking on, members, that from time to time, information has been difficult to obtain and often confusing. And quite frankly, for me, this is one of those few meetings that I have gone into where I've come out of the meeting with almost more questions in my mind than I had going in. And I think that the recommendation that was made, we are going to have to really try and go through the issues that have been raised and determine how we're going to get specific reports, and those will come back and then we can clarify. I want to just, and members, please listen so that if I leave anything off, because I think I share the concerns of all members on this committee. The first was that there seems to me to have been a specific breach of procurement guidelines with regards to the ticket, that was purchased for the chairman. And I think the reason these procurement guidelines are in place are to protect the purse. And this is an exact example where the money is sent directly to the person. They don't go, and it creates an issue. And so number one, for the committee, we're going to request that we need further details on the London ticket in specific. And the fact is that we'd like a report on it. I think that we want to see some of the timelines. A report, you can liaise with the Ministry of Finance, who has already indicated that they do not think that the procedures were followed, so that you can give your own, in report form, you can give your own judgment on that. But we'd like to see whatever correspondence and timelines you have, so that we can also be properly informed. I think members, that the question, remember we're dealing with public funds, no matter how you do it. There are some questions that arise with regard to the chairman. I've heard discussions about tickets being brought to bring him to Jamaica and hotels and other things. I think that this committee would be interested to see the total that has been spent on the chairman's travels in totality, paid out for the period that he has been in office. And I think that it may be, and I'm not certain, members, the extent to the remit, because it is a political appointment, but these are not executive chairmen. It's a chairman of a board. And we would like to know what is the specific expertise that he would bring that we cannot find in Jamaica. With all the discussions that are now taking place, Minister of Finance is bringing a new policy for boards. We'd like to see why it is that it was felt that this was necessary to incur that. So we'd like a report with regard to that. The point came up about an events promoting company and a retainer of 13 million. Again, discussions, 13.9. Discussions, this is a new phenomenon for PCJ apparently, and we would like to know what the terms of engagement are and to see exactly why it was felt that a retainer was necessary when for any event you want, you have any number of events promoters that you could call on, and all would be happy and willing. And my understanding is, again, the procurement guidelines would sort of govern something like that. The question of how that came about, because you would understand with a retainer of 13.9 million, it's going to open a lot of questions as to why go that route. Are there other things that were to be done otherwise? We need to have the wide picture of why we went this route and how that decision was made. With regard to the consultant, we have a consulting firm, we were told originally, named Asha Corporation, that is retained for $21 million per month, $21 million per year. Now, again, we would like to get from you, certain questions were asked. One, how was this engagement made? Was this a firm that approached you, or did you approach them, considering you were the general manager at the time? We would like to see what the particular expertise of this company is, including its board of directors and others that may be engaged with that company. and whether there are other things that they're doing for Petrojam at this time.
Before you with the Asher
Yes.
entity, you mentioned about a retainer being paid. I would also want in the response a clarification if there were separate billings for services outside of the retainer, much the same as the entertainment entity that was. Because I know here of invoices being submitted by the Asher company where you mentioned was made that the payment made directly to this consultant of Asher rather than to the company. So it would imply that one, there's a retainer, and two, there are separate services being paid for.
So what you're asking for is the total?
Yes.
The total, consolidate everything.
Retainer fee and the invoiced amount for this company since their engagement.
But as important, certainly I am a little concerned that you have spoken, when we asked you about Asher, you seem to have been a bit unclear about how the engagement came about. To me, I may be wrong. But second, I would think that a corporation such as yourself, who is engaging a technical person or company, would have at your hands all the technical expertise that they have at their disposal. So I'm a little concerned that you know of nobody else in the company, no directors, nothing. It seems to me that it's a little bit untidy. So we would like a very clear report that covers that in its entirety.
Are there reports submitted for these various engagements by Asher? Were there reports submitted for those services that they provide? Right? And copies of those reports to be submitted.
I think that's a specific. You could put it in, but it would be good for
submit
us
the copies
to
of the
that.
reports too, that they have submitted. Okay.
I also have, Member Phillips had asked for some clarity on the wall. Again, sorry.
Paulwell.
Member Paulwell. On the wall, and I think that a report outlining that process, who is engaged in it, the contractors, etc. I think that while there's been some explanation, I think the concerns raised of having various estimates but ending up above it really they make us a bit uncomfortable, and we would like you to just be able to clarify so that we are comfortable with it.
So, Chairman, we do have the chronology of events, and that report will be prepared.
Absolutely. That's exactly, with details, yes. There is the F2 furnace, and again, a fulsome report, including Member Phillips,
including, as Mr. Greenlee had said, that there's an additional contract also that you're going to be entering into with the same company, also?
Remember, I didn't say the same company. There will be a contract for installation of that equipment.
Of the equipment. So if we can get some timelines and costing to that also in his report. And also on the F2, the supply of the equipment itself and the time frame and the total cost for the supply of that equipment.
We'll provide a lot of information, member.
And lastly, the question was asked about your outreach programs, and you gave a fairly detailed report on how you arrive or what you support in general terms. But certainly I think if we could get a detailed report of what you have done and what you intend to do, members, it would be helpful to us, because I think that will give members a better idea, because I myself was taken aback that you do projects from St. Thomas to Negril, or St. Thomas to Westmoreland. So I certainly haven't heard of any, but you know, I'm willing to offer myself as a guinea pig. But nonetheless, but to be serious though, we need to see what has been done so that one thing is for you to outline what is the terms that guide you, but our job is to ensure that you follow those terms. So a list of what has been done would be of help to us. Yes, of the contributions. Yes, and the list will come. So members, those are the points.
Missed out one thing, Chair. I think it would fall with the London trip. I'd ask about that Brazilian trip.
Yes. Right.
We had asked for a complete report of all the trips and what was paid for.
But we're talking, I think in this case, you're really pointing at issues with I think it may be a little broad to try and get the trips of the entire Petrojam. I think we are focusing, I think the focus was on the chairman. So the extent to which, and I think it was captured in us saying all that we had done, maybe are good.
Just for clarity, yeah, I agree with you, not the whole landscape of trips, but specifically the trip by the chairman to Brazil, if that trip was made, if he made the trip.
If he was intended to go.
He had intended to go, whether payment was made to him and whether the money was reimbursed if it was the case and he didn't attend.
Right, we have noted it. Yes, okay. That will be included.
Well, members, I think we have captured. We would give you 3 weeks. I think should be sufficient for you. We do have some other business, but what we would do is ask you to try and get those reports back to us in 2 weeks, and we'll talk to members and schedule just to hopefully we can get it done. You know, even with some other scheduled event, because. Well, but we will see and inform you of that. But if you can get us a report in 2 weeks, and then we will let you know where we take it from there.
You didn't, about the HR manager and the information related to...
Yes, sorry. I did jump over. I did jump over one. The list is so long.
No,
the HR consultant, there is the question. We understood the emoluments are 12 million a year. We would just like in writing just the qualifications, the process you went out because I suspect it. As you said, we'd like to see the procurement process of that individual.
Sorry, yeah.
And her qualifications. And I will say this. I would like to just say this, having sat here and listened keenly. Why this concerns me is the fact that in the early part of the conversation, you were making or defending the point that your report speaks to employee dissatisfaction at the workplace, as well as a high turnover of persons, technical staff leaving, I think 13 or 15 in the last year. Therefore, it opens up the question that you have brought in high-powered persons and this is happening. It does open this all up to question. And I think we're going to have to go to the bottom of all of this because there seems to have been a lot of latitude going on. We just want to be very clear going forward.
Just to clarify the information to be provided, Mr. Greenlee, you gave a scale of 9.5 to 13 million, 12.97. Is that for what period? Because I have seen a scale up to 2015 where the HR manager salary was $5 million. So I want to know what period your scale is covering and when that new scale came into being. So I want the current and whatever between 2015, 2016, because I know what the 2015 up to 2015 is. So I want to know the progression. And in particular, I want to know when the HR manager was engaged, what was the commencement salary at that time? I'm not in agreement. As against what it is now.
Actually not in agreement. It is actually a waste of time. Because if the previous HR manager was at $9 million, it really doesn't make any sense for us to go back into what was salary scales in the past. People are paid according to current and according to market. What I'm most concerned about is ensuring that this individual, whomever they are, have the technical expertise to cover the function of the internal relations manager, the IR manager, the industrial relations manager, and that of HR, because that is the only place we would have justification that you are now paying 12 million instead of approximately 15 million.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, it's important I make this interjection. This is not a private entity. This is a public entity. There are guidelines.
Chairman, it is out of our remit. It's out of our remit, and we keep going down certain things.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Please, hold on. I think
government regulations specify a procedure for these matters. And whenever you're going to vary from it, and there are provision for variation, but when you're going to vary it, you have to write to the Ministry of Finance and get approval for that variation, so that each person who occupies the seat in management doesn't get up and willy-nilly do what they choose to do. That's the reason why there are guidelines. And as you have said, Chairman, the remit of this committee is to ensure that those guidelines are folled.
Yeah, but in that instance, again, guideline was followed, you know, because it was within the ban. It was within the ban.
Members, please. Member, so, there's one other addition. Member Phillips has asked. I don't know if we had made it clear that with the F2 furnace, if the technical report would be included. He has asked for that as well. All right, members. With that, I would like to thank the representatives from the Ministry of Science,
Energy, Technology.
Science, Energy and Technology. Thank you for attending. We look forward to the reports in 2 weeks, and we will inform you of when we'll be able to accommodate you from there. Members, I think this meeting has gone on much longer than we had originally anticipated. I thank you for your patience and that of the technical staff who are working with us. Thank you, and this meeting is now adjourned.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems